Good evening, dear students. I am very much delighted today to introduce Mrs. Shamla, my best friend and an excellent teacher in social studies, whom I have come across in all these teaching years. She's my best friend, and we know each other for more than 14 years. Very good social studies teacher with over 3 decades of experience in teaching. Shamla ma'am, please start. We are honored to have you here in this session. Please unmute yourself, ma'am.
You can introduce the subject.
Yeah. Today we are going to do poverty.
One second. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Namaste. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I am Shamla. As she has introduced, she is my best friend. We both worked for almost 3-4 years, I think, together in Meridian. And I was the teacher for her son as such.
Yes.
And I am really honored and privileged today to come here. When she has invited me, I thought it is a great privilege for me. So actually, I've been in this field for the past 32 years. Almost I completed 32 years. And I taught almost 29 batches of 10th class. Now I'm doing my 30th batch of 10th class. So when Shailaja asked me, I thought I should take this as an opportunity. And then whatever knowledge I have, I want to just convey and even interact with the students. Maybe I'll be learning also more from the students, I feel. So I'm very honored as such. So Shailaja, can I
start? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Presently, ma'am is teaching +2 also, social studies. Yes, ma'am.
Studies I teach.
Yeah. Business studies.
And economics also
Economics,
I teach for
yes.
11th and 12th.
Yes, ma'am. Please start. Few students will be watching your recorded video also. If they have questions, we will share with you.
Okay, fine. Okay. So the present topic we talk about as such, when we talk about economics, the main thing we talk about is poverty and also the conditions that are existing in a country. And as United Nations says that the countries are divided into called as developed countries and underdeveloped or developing countries, we call it as. So when India achieved independence in 1947, our economy was very poor and we had to start from the scratch as such. This was the major problem that we faced. And on the top of it, the main problems which we faced in our country one was unemployment and the other one is called as poverty. These two are the major causes and problems that India was facing. I think still we are facing it. We have not even come above that particular level. Maybe the percentage of people who are living below the poverty line or the number of poor people have come down, but still I feel that poverty is a major issue even till today also. So the government of India mainly talks about providing basic needs to the people and reduction of poverty as a major basic aims of the development of the country. So consequently, the government of India has come up with a number of plans as such, like we had the 5-year plans, laying emphasis on the upliftment of the poorest of the poor, which you call them as the Antyodaya, the poorest of the poor, and integrating the poor into the mainstream and achieving a minimum standard of living. These are the major objectives we talk about. That means upliftment of the poorest of the poor we talk about. Then we also talk about the integrating of the poor into the mainstream of the society and also achieving a minimum standard of living. These are the basic objectives which the government of India has set it into the tone. But as we know that today, first of all, when we talk about poverty, the first sentence we talk about, what is poverty? What do you mean by the concept called as poverty? Is that it is a situation where a person or a family together are not able to enjoy certain basic needs of life. Now, what are basic needs? That is 2 square meals a day, 2 pairs of clothes, we call it as, and also a proper shelter. That means which is all weather shelter, we call it as, where a person or a family will be able to protect themselves either from rain or from cold, or we call it as from the summer heat. These are the conditions or basic necessities. But as the time passed by, the basic needs have undergone a change, where we add even education today, health also we talk about, and many other things. But these are the three basic needs which we talk about, which we should be able to fulfill in the society. So it is said that poverty is not only a challenge for India, as more than 1/5 of the world's poor live in India only. The major concept when we talk about. Okay, and it is said that today almost we say that 5% of the people, that means the total population of India today, it stands at 1.3 billion population, we call it as, and we say that approximately 5% of the people are living in poverty. That means approximately the number is changing. It is given as 640 million, and some places it is given as 690. So I will take it as 5%, we can call it as. Okay. Now these are certain things where we have to take into consideration. So poverty has many phases, and they have been changing from place to place, time to time, and also described in many ways. That means poverty is described in various ways also. So what are the various ways we talk about is that poverty is one situation where everyone wants to escape. It's not that anybody likes to live in poverty. They want to escape from the poverty. That is the first concept we talk about. So it is a call to action. Poverty is nothing but it is a call to action for the poor and the wealthy, both of them. See, it is always said that sometimes poor also can become rich. The rich also can become poor. So in Telugu, they say that ballu vodalaute, vodalu ballu. This is the word we use actually in Telugu. That means if you don't be in a good condition, it can happen. So it is a condition where people want to escape from that particular situation. The other one is that for the poor and the wealthy, and also a change to the world, that what is a major thing when we talk about poverty is that people should have enough to eat, adequate shelter, access to education, and health protection from violence, and also to voice their opinions. The major thing of poor people is that they lack, though they have the fundamental rights, though they have the courts, they don't have the accessibility to get justice. This is the major thing that the poor people face. Because they are poor, they are vulnerable, they can be exploited. Maybe to a certain extent, they are not even allowed to enjoy their fundamental rights. This is where basically we talk about poverty is, where it has to be taken care, and where we should see that they are having that security in the society, and they are also being looked after, and try to uplift them from that particular situation. Not that from centuries together, generations together, they live in that particular vicious circle of poverty. That should be broken very fast. That is the major challenge that every country faces, especially India also faces this problem. It's not that India only has poor people. Every country has, but as I told you that it changes from place to place, time to time, and also from generation to generation also. So to know how do you help to reduce the poverty, is that what works, what does not work, what changes over time, and poverty over time is that you have to define poverty. First and foremost thing is that how do you define poverty? Second thing is that how do you measure study of the poverty? Okay, and then experience it. That means poverty has many dimensions. It's not one dimension we talk about. There are several dimensions of poverty, and it has to be looked to through various indicators. Now, indicators are those, like for example, you have the UNDP, that is United Nations Development Program, gives certain indicators which you call it as a Human Development Index, also HDI we call it as. Now, under HDI, the UNDP takes something called as literacy. It also takes something called as life expectancy. It also talks about gross enrollment ratio. There are various indicators. That means a combination of social and economic indicators are one of the important aspects by which you will be able to measure poverty, or you know or understand the dimensions. So indicators or levels of income you talk about, consumption, you talk about social indicators, economic indicators, and the most important thing is that vulnerability to risks and socio-political access. We have n number of cases in India when we talk about the socio-political access. That means poor people are denied of any of the opportunities in any of these aspects. So in a just when we talk about, these are the various dimensions you have poverty, which should be taken into consideration. And then we come across and we define poverty, and then we analyze as to what the government is doing, what are the programs that are taken, and how the government is trying to reduce the poverty. Is there an effort really to identify? Because when we say poor people, there is always a differentiation that you have to make, that who are the most needy in that. Now, poor people is different. There are certain sections of the people who are in dire necessity of help. So there is always a necessity that whenever a program is made or a welfare program is made by the government has to see that the program is reaching the person who needs it the most, not that everybody gets the benefit. That should be the major target of the government. Is the government able to target those people who really require the help, not that everybody receives the help? If we are able to identify the correct person who needs the help, if you try to give that particular person that help, then it is a great thing that we will be able to reduce the poverty. So before going into that, when we talk about who are the poor, now when I am talking about poor people, who are these poor people? Who are they? Now when we say who are they, now we divide them into rural areas and urban areas. In the urban areas, you have something called as push cart vendors who will be selling vegetables, or you talk about fruits who will be selling, or you talk about the street cobblers who sit on the roadside and try to repair the shoes or polish your shoes. These are the people. You also have the women who string flowers. Every day we try to buy the flowers for offerings and all that. And rag pickers, vendors, beggars. These are all the people who are called as poor and vulnerable groups in the urban areas. And when we go to that, means why are they called as vulnerable is that they don't have any assets. That means they don't possess anything which is called as their own. They don't possess anything. They reside in kacha hamlets. Now, what are kacha hamlets is that the walls which are made with mud, baked mud, or roofs which are made of grass, thatch, bamboo, and roofs and wood. All these are the things. That means that house is not all weathered protected. Like I told you, that a proper shelter where the family or the person is able to live through all conditions, all types of seasons. So they don't have that also. The next one we talk about is that the poorest of them do not even have that dwellings. So they do not have anything like this. The other one we talk about is that even if they own the land, now if you go to rural areas, okay, they earn some guntas, or you call it as very small piece of land. Now, even if they own that land also, either it is very dry or it is a waste land where you cannot grow anything over there. Plus, they do not get even 2 meals a day. Like I told you in the beginning itself, 2 square meals. Now, what do you mean by the word called as 2 square meals? Is that where you are able to have your hunger is quenched. That means a person should have that feeling that yes, I had a proper meal, I was able to eat properly. That is what is called as meals. Then we talk about starvation and hunger. So what are the 2 important features of poverty? Is one is starvation and the other one is hunger. These 2 are the key features of the most of the poor people as such. That means they may get the food, they may not get the food, or they have that insecurity that tomorrow I may not get the food and today they may not eat the entire. That means stomach full food is not eaten by them. Like in French Revolution, like Shailaja was talking once, in French Revolution it is said that out of every 10 people, 9 people died out of starvation, 1 person died out of constipation or overeating. So when you talk about that, this is what I'm talking about. That means the people are not having food to eat. They don't eat, or they have this insecurity that tomorrow if I don't get the food, how? So they try to eat less and try to distribute it. This is one aspect. So the other thing is that in our country, basically not only anywhere, if you talk about literacy skills, naturally, first of all, they don't have food to eat. So you can't think about education. See, when your stomach is full, basic necessity. There is also something called as Maslow's hierarchy theory of psychological needs or basic needs, you call it as in psychology. In that, Maslow says that unless your basic needs are satisfied, you cannot go to the next step. A person cannot go because first is that his basic necessity is food. If he gets the food, then he goes to the next aspect. Yeah, you all know that also. Your parents must be telling, study, study. First, I'm feeling hungry, give me food. That is a basic thing you talk about. So, according to the theory, first thing is that you get the food, you get the basic needs. Once you get basic needs, you go to the next step, that is literacy skills or education you talk about. And if you're not educated, of course, in our country, even if educated people also are there, unemployment is very high in our country. So a person without having education, he cannot even think of dreaming about economic opportunities, or you talk about having a job or something like that. So these people face unstable unemployment naturally, because these are all called as disguised unemployment. And when you talk about the concept of unemployment, we have so many types of unemployment in that. You call it as disguised unemployment, which is a main feature in our country. What is a disguised unemployment refers to that is where a person, maybe in a particular area you require 8 people, but 12 people are working. That means those 4 people are extra. They don't have any work to do, but still they are employed. In our country, this is the pattern of employment we have. That means it is an unstable unemployment, whether they will be able to get the job or not. That means they are employed, but how far they are doing the work? They don't do any work. These 4 people will be helpers. Either they'll bring the tea, or they will help them to carry the tools or something like that. But 100% productivity is not there. So when we talk about disguised unemployment, that means if you remove these 4 people, the productivity will remain the same. Not that the productivity will come down, but they are a burden. If they're shifted also, the productivity remains the same. So unstable unemployment is very common in our country. Next one among poverty is that malnutrition. Now, malnutrition is that where the people are not able to eat proper nutritious food is not there with them. Naturally, first of all, they don't have food to eat. So where will they talk about nutritious food? That is almost out of area and out of the boundaries also we can talk about. So malnutrition is very high in our country, especially among the children. Maybe that is the reason why the government of India has launched something called as midday meal scheme, by which they are trying to provide food to the poor people in all these government schools and all other schools. That is also one way by which you are trying to attract the students to come to the school. If you give that, at least they will come. That is why when lockdown has been announced, there was an alarming problem, or there was a concern that if this lockdown continues, if the schools are not reopening, the children will not come to the school because food is not provided. And maybe once again, we will have a number of students who will be called as, what is the word we use for that is that, what is the word, I forgot the word. They will fall into the gap called as, yes ma'am?
Undernourishment, ma'am.
No. I'm talking
Dropouts from school.
dropouts. Very good, excellent. Shalja, thank you. So they will be called as a dropouts. Dropouts are those where they are neither called as illiterate, not literate. They are not illiterate, they are not literate also. That means they know how to read and write, but you cannot give them the job. So dropout rate will increase in our country if malnutrition or all these concepts are there, for example. So the other thing we talk about is that because they don't have proper food, it leads to ill health. When it leads to ill health, maybe some people may have a disability also. Because, for example, if you take pregnant mothers, the poor people, the poor mothers who deliver. Usually the children are born with some disabilities because they don't have an access to proper education or treatment or whatever it is. So disability may be there. Plus serious illness, naturally, because of all these situations, it leads to serious illness, which makes them physically weak. So they will not be able to take up the job. They will not be able to perform properly. One more important thing is that unless your stomach is full, neither your mind will work, neither your physical strength will allow you to take up any jobs. So the basic thing wherever you go is the basic necessity of food. So that is where the poverty starts. Okay. And then the other thing they talk about is that mainly in order, maybe we'll talk about India only mostly. The poor people, in order to meet the expenses, they go to the money lenders. Okay, they take money from the money lenders. You all know very well what do the money lenders do. They charge very high rate of interest. Unable to pay that interest, they will fall into debt. They will call into something called as chronic indebtedness. What is a chronic indebtedness is that they cannot come out of that because they will take some loan. They are unable to pay the loan. They will take loan from some other fellow and try to clear this loan, and again this loan will be there. So it is like a vicious circle of loans where they will be falling into lots of indebtedness. They are very highly vulnerable people. They don't have something called as asking. They cannot ask anything. For example, if they are employed in a particular area, they cannot say that I want this. That means mostly in our country, this particular feature is not there where you can demand a particular job. I want this much of salary. It's not possible in our country except for highly technical, highly professional, where you have very few people who are highly qualified. Only those people can have the demand saying that I want this much of salary, then only I can pay. So think of these poor people. Will they have any means of negotiating, asking that I want the wage market, I want the market wage rate? Impossible. They will not be able to ask for anything, because of which they are exploited. And definitely taking their condition into consideration, exploitation is very high. They will make them work, but they are not paid properly at all. This is other aspect we talk about. Next one we talk about is that they don't have access to electricity. This also we know in most of our countries. Maybe recently, I think because of Narendra Modi, after coming into power, maybe he has taken upon this responsibility of providing access of electricity. I think last 2 years back or so, I think some of the villages in Bihar, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, they were able to get electricity only 2 years back. That means after 73, 74 years of independence, the villages in India got electricity. That means you can imagine our poverty condition. Where are we? What are we doing? And the other aspect the central government promised way back in 2000 is that we will be providing drinking water to all the villages. Safe, clean drinking water. That was a mission of Government of India in 2000. This is 2020. Even certain urban areas also do not have proper water. Access to water is also a question mark. Okay, this is also one more important aspect we talk about. So, and I think Gobar gas is one important thing that has been introduced by the Government of India, where they are using this scheme and they are providing this. Otherwise, what is their cooking medium is mainly they go for fuel, is a firewood for them, or cow dung cakes they use, which create a lot of pollution, and because of which also people suffer because of the smoke that is emitted from that. So I think under one scheme, I'm not able to get the scheme as such. They have provided this chulas and all that for the people. I think now in certain rural areas, people are having accessibility to gobar gas plants and all these in certain areas. But still, in certain poor areas and poor households, still fuel is considered to be the firewood. Cow dung cakes are still used in most of the villages also. Then, apart from that, we have gender inequality. Of course, gender inequality is there everywhere in India, not only in the poor people. in other ways also. But still, when we talk about the poor people, gender inequality is very high as far as employment is concerned. That means where men are paid more. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, Ujjwala scheme. I was about to say that. I didn't want to say that whether, because I was not confirmed whether it was correct. So thank you so much. So the evidence of gender equality is there, not only in us, there also, where women are given less wages, men are paid highly also. Plus, education. We all know that in India, if a girl and a boy is there, because of poverty, not only that, because of poverty and because of certain conventional thinking also, if a boy and a girl is there, preferably the parents try to spend the money on boys' education and not give importance to girls' education. Maybe recently, I think there is a change wherein parents are encouraging girls to take up higher education and then try to take up all the high posts also. But is also very less, very few percentage. But most of the time, education, if you take, boys are given preference in most of the households, especially in poor, because they don't have money. They want the boy to go for education so that he will become the support for the family, earn the income and all that as such. Then apart from that, decision making. Now this is also one more aspect, as I told you, especially in most of the areas we find that in rural areas, it is men always who take the decisions in the family and women hardly are consulted. Maybe in this area we can talk that South India is better here, where women at least are given some importance to participate in the decision making. But if you take North India, it is totally a male dominated society where women hardly get an opportunity to at least express themselves or give an opinion, or their opinion is never asked also. So this is always there in the poor people also, we can find this. So, and other thing, already I mentioned that the poor people, the poor women, because when they conceive, when they go for delivery, first of all, they don't have any proper food as such. Yeah, their hospital accessibility is also not there, because of which the children who are born are either very weak or they don't survive for a longer period of time because of various complications that they face at the time of the birth. These are all the things we talk about when we say what is poverty, who are poor, and what do you mean by poverty means. These are the points we will talk about. Then we say, how do you identify the poor? The poor can be identified on the basis of their occupation and the ownership of the assets. What is occupation that is taken up by them? That means, already I gave the examples of rural areas and the urban areas. In rural areas, people work as agricultural laborers, or you talk about cultivators, landless laborers. These are all the people who are engaged in different various activities. Non-agricultural activities also they are involved in. And the urban poor, who are the urban poor here is that where we say that the people who usually migrate from the rural areas to the urban areas. This we have seen during the time of the lockdown also, that we have seen that in Telangana, the number of laborers who have come from other states, whether you talk about Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, if you take, the number of people who have come to this our state were huge. We can see, we have seen the number of pictures, we have seen the news items, how many laborers, migrant laborers are there. So who are the urban poor? Are basically the people who migrated from the rural areas to the urban areas in search of livelihood. And they take up a variety of jobs. Not, they don't have a specific job as such. That is why we call them as, they're all employed in the unorganized sector. And unorganized sector is that which does not have security of employment. There is no question of giving them market wages, what the employer feel he will give, how many hours you work. There is no question for that. You cannot question, I cannot work. You cannot say that. Whatever time he asks, how many hours you work, you have to work. He can remove you at will and wish. There are no leaves provided. There are no provisions that are provided. So basically, they are at the mercy of the employers. That is what is unorganized sector. So these people who migrate from the rural areas to the urban areas, they are at least happy that they are able to get some job, some income by which they can at least eat something and survive for a certain period of time. That is the confidence that by which they come to urban areas. So these people, also called as self-employed, also will be selling on the roadsides and all these. These are the people usually when you talk about occupation and ownership of assets. Hardly they own anything as such. So these are the identification of the scholars on the basis of employment we talk about. Some can be self-employed, some are mostly employed in some job or the other, odd jobs we call it as, where there is no security of employment. They just work because they have to work, they have to earn something, and they have to survive in the society. As such, they don't have any security of the future as such. So when we talk about this, how do we identify the poor? How do we identify? How do we know that this person is poor or this section of people are poor? Means we have to find out certain sustainable strategies. Like in the beginning, only introduction part I told you is that when you are talking about the poor, there are two types of poor. Poor, very poor. Very poor is a person who requires the help of the government, who is vulnerable, who doesn't have anything. The help should reach that particular person. So in order to identify the person who is the needy person over there, certain strategies have to be made and to address the causes of poverty. That means, first of all, you should know what are the causes of poverty, why they are in poverty. In spite of so many years of independence, so many schemes have been introduced, even then also why these people are poor. That is the first thing you talk about. Second thing is that design schemes to help out of this situation. So bring out number of things, like we have that NREGA. I think you all must be having that idea of NREGA. What is an NREGA is that it is a scheme. Anyone can tell that, or should I continue? Do you know what is NREGA?
Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, ma'am.
Yes. Can you just describe that? Or should I? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It's a 100 days guarantee work by the government, ma'am. If it in case government fails to provide the work, then government has to pay from his own pockets, ma'am.
Yeah. It is called as unemployment allowance they provide. That means either they provide the job. Thank you so much, ma'am. So either they provide the job. If they fail to provide the job, they at least give the unemployment allowance so that the people will be able to survive until they are provided with the jobs. Okay. So this is one scheme that has been introduced. But for all these schemes to be implemented, like I told you, that first identify the poor who requires this particular help. So in NREGA, it so happens that sometimes all will go and take up the job. Who does not require also, they just go and apply. That is not correct. So these schemes have been designed in such a manner where it should go to that particular person or that section of people who actually require that. So for this, they have to develop something called as a scale to measure the poverty, and the factors that make up the criteria for the measurement and also the mechanism to implement. Most important thing is that, children, everything is on paper is fine. Implementation is one thing which is very, very important. That is where most of the schemes fail. Everything looks beautiful on the paper, but the thing is that it has to pass from the central government to the person or the beneficiary who should get that particular benefit. If we are able to do that, then half the problems will be solved. But the problem is that it is not reaching the beneficiaries. The schemes are there done, the school schemes are very nice, but the beneficiaries are not able to get that particular opportunity. So this is where we have to design the strategies and brought about the concept by which we can go or alleviate poverty and take up the measure.